You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 261 of Teach Better Talk podcast. Jeff Gargis is in the house, and of course, I'm here too. My name's Ray Hewart. We have a bunch in store for this episode, but before we get into all the fun, hey Jeff, how you doing, pal?
I'm good. Oh, I was really hoping you were going to say friend because
Friend?
I have my friends Teach Better Friend shirt on, and I was like going to make a joke about it. It was going to be great. You missed it. You messed the whole thing up.
I intentionally said pal because Alec commented on our Facebook that I don't use the word pal enough. And so, for all of our listeners out there, we so appreciate that you listen. We love when you engage, interact with us because, we just do this show for all of you. But apparently I don't use pal enough.
You know what I'd love to know
buddy.
is if anybody listens and you've listened for a while, at least a few episodes, if we could figure out what words does she use more? Like, not necessarily like buddy probably, but just in general, like what are the most commonly used Ray words?
That guy over there.
That guy. You do say like that guy sometimes and stuff. Or yeah. Anyway,
I like to use your full name pretty often. I do really enjoy using Jeffrey Raymond.
You do the full name quite often. That is true. You probably do that more than pal. That's for sure.
You know what that was funny? I had somebody, this is totally off topic. I had somebody earlier this week text me saying, hey, I just realized I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Could you they wanted me to type it to them to pronounce it. And I literally was like, well, if you go to any video or any podcast or anything we do that is digital content, I probably say my name in the first 5 seconds.
That's
you could hear it out loud. I'm just saying.
Did you do that because you just really didn't want to figure out how to type out your name phonetically?
No. So this is what I did. Here's how I described my last name, but then it didn't come across well in a text message. So his response was, that didn't help. And I'm like, well, then go look at any piece of content from the Teach Better team that's video or audio. But I always say it's Hewart, like Hugh Grant with an ert. Hewart.
I like that.
Hewart.
See, I would have been like, it's like, ew, ert. But that's just how I would go. Although, anytime anyone asks me how to say your last name, I tell them it's Hughart.
You're such a jerk.
Because that's hilarious to me. Oh, because I'm like, oh yeah, it's Hughart. Go talk to her, please. I just want.
I do have some days where hug heart would be cute because it's like a hug and a heart, and I get it. It's just not. Yeah,
maybe it should be. Let's talk about that for a second.
Let's not. Anyway, Gargis, let's get into this. How are you? How's life? We have a lot going on right now. We were literally, before we press record, we were talking about how overwhelmed we were.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But with all that overwhelm and craziness, there's a lot of excitement. So a lot of really cool things going on. One in particular that's so exciting that we all decided we would meet on a Sunday to talk about is, well, sort of connected to it, right? Is the Focus on the Focus series. That is
so good.
And this podcast it started. Yeah, we're already 2 weeks in at this point. With Dave and Caitlin, who we're sometimes now referring to as the Dave and Caitlin Show, which I really love that we're referring to it as that. But they have this Focus on a Focus series going on right now, and it kind of spurred from December 29th, 12-Hour Live, which, by the way, 12-Hour Live, April 24th coming. And we had Dave and Caitlin on. They just talked about grading, and people just ate it up. So we're like,
ate it up.
How about we do some other stuff? We did a podcast thing where I got to do it while you were out, and people were like, "Hey, this is awesome! Don't bring Ray back." And I'm like, "Too late. She's already back."
Oh.
No, but people just, I think with Dave, why I love Dave and Caitlin is because they're both they're both brilliant, but they both also know, they're both very confident in their experience and their viewpoints, but they also both know that they don't know everything and they're not perfect. And I love that because They're very confident. They're very committed to their viewpoints, but they're also like ready to have the conversations, argue it out, and they're willing to change. And I think that's really cool. But the focus on the focus specifically is all around grading, assessment, feedback. It's essentially like we just kind of like push play on Dave and Caitlin and let them go. I mean, is there more strategy behind it than that? Because that's basically what I know about it.
Well, outside of all of that, which is totally true. No, they also have actually like assigned things that they're talking about in every session. So if you guys haven't caught the sessions yet, they're actually strategically designed that you can pop in the middle, but you could also follow the whole series and hopefully gain a lot of value. So I have the dates in front of me and I'm about to sneeze. But if I don't sneeze, I could give you all the dates if you were interested.
That, because at one point, like when you get done with this, when the series is over, it's all going to be housed over at teachbetteracademy.com as a free course. And you'll be able to go through in order as you want. Or bounce around, and it'll be there forever. So that's good. Are you through the sneeze? Did we get through?
I don't think I'm gonna sneeze. It's like right there. It's like when it's on the tip of your tongue, like when you need a word.
So when this episode comes out, it's gonna be what the 19th. So which means we'll have 2 weeks past. So what were those 2 weeks, and then what's coming up? Because on Wednesday they're gonna do another episode.
Yeah, so guys, this is every single Wednesday at 7:00 Eastern in the evening. It's an hour-long discussion, and we've already discussed the first session, which was really some general ideas of like, what is grading? What are we talking about here? Then we got into a really interesting conversation on the 14th where we talked about measuring what actually matters in a grade, in feedback, in an assessment. So the upcoming topics are talking about zeros and deadlines, and they actually shared some spoilers that Dave and Caitlin aren't necessarily against zeros or against deadlines. Like Caitlin even said she liked them. So I think that's going to create a really, really good discussion point because I think a lot of people saw that title and said, ooh, they're going to tell us you can never use a zero. You can't set any deadlines. And I don't think that's where this one's going to go. So I'm really excited to hear the dialogue on that. Then they're also going to dive into the concept of formatively and summatively assessing students. And then, Jeff, this is kind of a spoiler, but I want to make sure people have it on their calendar. We are doing something really, really special the first week of May. And we're going to be just like all over the place with really, really fun celebrations for teachers. So they're actually taking that week off.
Yep.
Although we will still be live Wednesday for about 1,000 other reasons. But their specific focus on the focus grading series will end on the 12th, which is when they're going to do a live Q&A, which is going to be really
fun. Ooh, that's going to be fun, just doing the Q&A part. So
yeah,
that's super exciting. So that is live free, like Ray said, every Wednesday, anywhere that you can follow us on social media. That's on Facebook, that's in our private Facebook group, that's on Twitter, on Twitch, and on YouTube. So hopefully you'll check that out.
Also,
if
you didn't want to watch, like write any of that down, we have our events calendar where you can literally see when the Teach Better team is live, when the Teach Better team has an event, when the Teach Better team's doing anything. It's at teachbetter.com/events calendar. Add that to your Google Calendar so you get notifications. And so then you can choose to either participate or hold off until it's in the academy.
We even have on that events calendar, we even have Ray's sleep schedule. So like, is she getting her rest?
No.
Is she eating dinner? Like, when is it going to be?
True.
Like, it's just it's everything. It's everybody's schedule in there. No, that was a really cool thing that the marketing team put together, which is that calendar, which made it, because it was highly requested of like, hey, I feel like I'm missing stuff. And I can go back and watch the replays, but I'm missing the live stuff. And so we put that calendar together. So that's awesome. Also awesome was this episode. So Patricia Dickenson, Dr. Patricia Dickenson, she is the course lead over at National University. So she's essentially working with teachers to help teachers become teachers and be great teachers. She's a former middle school and elementary math teacher. She's a lover of math. She's an author. She's a podcaster. She dropped. I noticed something about her in this episode. Like, I'm trying. Which question was? Oh, the question when you talked about like excitement. She shared excitement, and then just like very quickly, organically flipped into like, I'm excited, and here's 5,000 pieces of advice you didn't ask for that were all amazing. And then it was like, okay, can we narrow the one advice? And we're like, oh, she nailed that too. And she just kept going. I enjoyed listening to her and talking to her. And I think this is a really good episode. I think people will be excited. We give away a copy of her book, so you got to hang around for that to figure out how to win that. So that's good. Ray, anything else?
Math people teacher, are my people. Yeah, I know. Enjoy the episode.
Exactly. So let's get into episode 261 with Dr. Patricia Dickenson.
Hey everyone, it's Ray. We'll be right back to this episode, but I want to make sure that if you are a Teach Better Academy member, you know we just launched another course. You guys already are aware that we launch a course in our Teach Better Academy about every 30 to 40 days, and we just launched a brand new one here on April 12th. The new course is called Using Social Media to Grow Your Network. And it is all about not only getting you logged onto the platform, but truly understanding your mission and how you're communicating your why from everything from your profile picture, your bio, and the tweets and messages that you send out. If you are already a Teach Better Academy member, the course is already located in the queue. But if you're not a member yet and you're not sure if paying $9 a month is something that you want to be a part of, you can always join in on the course on your own by buying it outright over in the Academy. So I will meet all of you over in our brand new course, Using Social Media to Grow Your Network, at teachbetteracademy.com. But let's get back to this episode.
All right. We are here and we are chatting with Patricia Dickenson. And Patricia, so awesome to have you on the show. Super excited to connect with you, to learn about your journey and your story and to share it with others. Before we dive too far into things, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I just got back from picking my son up from swim class, so I made it. I'm feeling good. I'm glad to be here today.
I like that we're celebrating victories. No, this is her celebrating a victory. Yes. She got it. She made it.
Well, tomorrow's another big victory for me as well, because all three of my kids will be starting hybrid. And so we've been home, doing remote instruction for over the past year. So tomorrow is kind of like a big milestone in our family. So yes.
That's a huge milestone. Well, we are sending you some love for that.
What are the ages and grade levels? What are the grade levels ages, Patricia?
Yeah, absolutely. So my youngest is in second grade, and she is 7. And then my middle son is in 5th grade. He is 11. And then my oldest is in 7th grade, and he is 13.
Wow, so exciting.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm excited to have like a quiet house for a few hours. It's going to be like so epic.
Yes. And it will be a big day for them that they get to kind of transition the way that they've been learning over the past year. So that's really exciting. I love all these victories. I want to kind of start out, Patricia, with allowing our listeners to get to know you. I know we are all newly connected as well, and I'm so eager to dive into your story and all the questions we have planned. But before we get into all that, would you mind kind of answering what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work full-time at National University, which is an online teacher credentialing program out here in California. And I've been with National since 2012. So I'm the course lead for the multiple and single subject math and science credential courses for the preliminary and multiple subject teaching credential. So I write courses, I staff courses, I train teachers to teach the courses that I've written, and then I obviously work with the teacher candidates in their digital portfolio, advising, teaching, all sorts of things. So that's what I'm currently doing. But I am a former elementary and middle school teacher, and I've started in the classroom back in 2000. I started teaching in Los Angeles, and I was a math coach for the Los Angeles Unified School District and was working in teacher professional development since 2003. So pretty busy. I love working with teachers, and I love working with the students. I have a little bit of ADD when it comes to work. I like to do a little bit of everything, keeps me on my toes, and I never get bored.
I totally get it. You also, so let's, I just want to dive right in. Let's go right into your book. Can you tell us a little bit about the book? Because we may or may not be doing a giveaway later on, if I remember correctly.
That'd be awesome.
Well, tell us a little bit about the book, like what it's about, but also like what spurred it on, what made you say, hey, I'm going to put this together, I'm going to put this out, and who should be looking into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when the pandemic hit in March, I was working with teachers. I'm supporting new teachers and, just started coming up with ideas to support them in remote instruction. It was like training them all over again. And, as I shared, I've been teaching online since 2000, actually 2010, I started teaching for USC. So I was just sharing best practices with them, specifically towards math, since I teach the math courses at the university, and just working with colleagues in the area as well, and being invited to come into their classroom and co-teach and work with the kiddos. So I just started curating tons of content, from digital projects to Google Jamboards to Nearpods to Peer Decks. Just had all this this content. And I wanted to create a book because, just like all the other teachers out there who are on Teacher Pay Teachers, I had this great content and teachers were buying it. But the teachers that I was working with were like, I want to know how to do that. Like, I want to know how I can make a virtual manipulative, or how I can create my own Desmos, or how I can create collaborative structures online. So really just started writing the book based on a lot of, the work that I do, the notes, the questions, and worked really hard over the summer and was able to actually churn out a book by July. And at the same time, a colleague of mine who has an in-service teacher professional development program asked me to write a course on teaching math remotely. So the book is about best practices for teaching math remotely. It has over 100 digital resources for teachers to use, for them to, make a copy to make to their own students, to, change what they want to kind of build their own curriculum based on the funds of knowledge of the students that they work with. Just like the students out here in California might be so different than the students out in Ohio, right? Because they all have different experiences, but they have this baseline of how to get started with creating digital lessons. And then they have the opportunity to really own it and then shift it to their students and to their needs.
I love it. Wow, that sounds like it's packed full of value there. So I meant to ask you beforehand, but when we talked about it before, but we didn't confirm it. We're going to give a copy away, correct? Is that
absolutely?
Is that still happening?
Yes.
Right,
let's do it.
Hang on. If that sounds like something you want, you got to hang on. We're going to do that a little bit later in the episode, so we'll come back to that. I wanted to ask. You have a podcast as well, correct?
That's right. It's called.
So tell us about. Not enough stuff for you to do. Apparently, let's do a podcast too, right? Tell us about the podcast. It's. I'm just messing with. It's the Teacher Prep with Dr. D, right? Is the podcast.
That's right. So when I was getting my master's and my credential, I was always frustrated by the disconnect between the university and what I was actually experiencing in the classroom. But there's so much that is valuable in terms of research. So the focus of the podcast is really to blend research with best practices. So my guests are either one or the other, right? They're either people that are experts in the profession. Like I just had an interview with an expert in bilingual education. And then I build on the interview and share some best practices for the classroom, or vice versa. I might have someone came in and we talked about going gradeless. And then I filled in with all the research and the best practices from what the research says. So it's really to kind of build that blend of research and best practices for the practitioner. And so, I generally work with new teachers, pre-service teachers. So giving them an opportunity to really get that best practice and the research, whether they're gardening or going to the gym, and the teacher candidates really love it.
I love it. Well, obviously, we're fans of podcasts here, so make sure you subscribe and rate that. Go check that out. That's awesome. All right, I want to dive in, Patricia, if we can, into one of my favorite questions that we ask on this podcast. That's when we talk about failure. And, I always say that I've been fortunate to fail a lot, because even though I didn't necessarily love them when it happened, I still feel like I continually learn almost daily from things that I might have failed years ago that I'm still pulling lessons from. So I love sharing these stories to help us find how we can pull lessons from that. So hoping you can share a story with us about a time that you've had a failure. Kind of take us there with you. What happened? How did you overcome that? And then what did you pull away from that experience?
Yes, absolutely. Failure has also kind of been part of my approach to life. I fail often, and I take those failures and think what I can learn from them and how I can grow. And typically what I find whenever I do experience failures is that somehow I always land on my feet and another door tends to open. So I know God's got my back because I've made a lot of mistakes, some of them just from being so passionate about what I do. Either a lot of times it's for trying to advocate for children. And as you know, working for bureaucracy, there's a lot of red tape and you can step on other people's toes. But I did end up in the teacher room one time because I was advocating for a student who I felt was wrongfully targeted by the administration for just, being involved in an act when he wasn't even there, and just because someone said he was there. And so I advocated for him. And anyways, it was a crazy time. I never thought that I would be there in a situation. And it was like right after I had my doctorate, and I was just like, whoa, what is going on? It can be scary. I think, we tend to espouse all these like wonderful ideals about teaching, but at the end of the day, I think teachers really need to be aware of just, some of the dangers that they can get into if they don't make good choices. So, one time I had a student who literally showed up to my class and she was tripping out on drugs. And as a brand new teacher, that was really scary because I wanted to advocate and help the student. But at the same time, like, I have a professional teaching credential and I have a legal responsibility to report this. So it's a slippery slope, and it's very emotional, and it's a very, you have to just be constantly thinking about how your actions can unfold and how that might hurt you professionally. So I would say that making the right decision in that situation was a good thing, because had that student gone out, got into a car, got into an accident, I would have been responsible. So obviously I did let the administration know, and, then that student was taken care of. She came to me because she was scared. She had taken drugs and she didn't know what kind of effect it would have on her. I mean, so these are things. So, I mean, it's kind of like there's great things about failing. Like, hey, I did a lesson plan and it totally bombed, but I learned a lot about how to approach instruction, what not to do. Like, whoa, I did a lesson plan. I was trying to teach my kids about making slime, and I thought, oh, this would be a great way to do ratios, because they'd have to find the ratio of the different ingredients and see what's the best texture of slime. Well, it was a total disaster. There was slime all over the room. We didn't even really talk about relationships. I mean, so, pick and choose what you take risks on. That's, I guess, where I'm going with, we are professionals. We want to always model excellence. We want to make sure that our students are safe. And we want to make sure that whatever we're taking a chance with, whether it's, trying to find perfect squares doing Cheez-Its, which I've done, which was a total disaster, to my slime experiment. Yeah, those were good lessons. And certainly I spent hours after just cleaning up, but they were good failures for me to have. Because I learned more about myself. I learned about what would have made the lesson better. I learned, what my students can handle. But other lessons, like I said, when it comes into student safety, when it comes to like, wow, this student needs a ride home. Should I be driving them home? Thinking like 10 steps ahead. Where could this lead? How could this get me in trouble as a professional?
I think there are so many different pieces of advice in there. I really love your mindset of wanting to do what's well for students, but also acknowledging that, of course, we have responsibilities as educators that we need to ensure that we are making the right choices. So I want to get into a little bit about what fuels your fire. What really is keeping you excited about education and all that you're involved in? Can you tell us a little about that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, for the past year and a half, I've certainly been focused on, my kiddos and getting them excited and motivated to show up for Zoom every day and do their best. So that's kind of been my ethos for the past year and a half. But, in terms of education, I think we've really come full circle with technology and some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks of technology. I think people are really looking back on 2020 and saying, hey, we really need to focus on relationships because relationships really matter. That's number one. Like the technology can be great and the technology can make my job easier, or it can create a space for us to look at lessons and learn remotely. But at the same time, it's really about those relationships. So I think it's really important that no matter what technology you're using, that it's going to support having those relationships with your students. It's going to support having them collaborate and, use breakout rooms or use a Google Jamboard for them to work collaboratively and share their ideas. So I'm excited that, schools are going to be opening back up and teachers have built up their digital toolkit. They're feeling much more comfortable with using technology. They're feeling much more comfortable with making mistakes, with failures. I think, that's for me, I watch teacher candidates all the time, and they're certainly much more open to failure. They're certainly much more open to stretching themselves and using technology. So I think that's really exciting, but I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. There's a lot of children who have had significant learning loss this year, whether it's, because they don't have resources at home. Not everybody has a parent who's able to stay at home with them and, help them out with their homework or make sure that they are online and doing what they need to do. So I think we need to be really mindful of those types of opportunities to support our kids and give them the kinds of services that they need.
No, great advice. Definitely something I want everybody to consider as they continue to find, the right steps to be taking, and absolutely something that is extremely exciting. I mean, discussing how educators have really been collecting tools for your toolkit that are all focused on how to better utilize technology is a huge success that I've seen so many educators dive into. I know you continue to share a ton of advice, but if you had to identify one piece of advice that you would give teachers, what would that be?
Well, absolutely. If you haven't experienced failure in the past year and a half, I would strongly encourage you to embrace failure because that is where the adaptations happen in your practice. It's part of that process that pushes us to become great teachers. So certainly just try new things, whether it's making your own flipped video for the first time or, jumping on an ed puzzle, maybe even creating your own ed puzzle. I had my students do that, and my kids do that, and it was a fun experience. It opens a lot of doors. Or have them do a podcast and share what they know about the Roman Empire, or pretend they're an archaeologist looking, for remains. So things like that, I think we need to continue to push our practice and be okay with failure. And certainly just don't assign a value to yourself. Don't let it define, your self-worth. Give yourself permission to fail and give yourself permission to grow. And just continue to try new things. There's a lot of wonderful innovations that are just on the horizon, whether it's VR I love content integration. I think focusing on how you can take your subject area and integrate it across the curriculum is a huge benefit for all learners, but especially our English language learners, because it allows them to transfer that academic language into other content areas. And it's really shown in the research to have a huge opportunity for them to grow significantly in their academic achievement. So hopefully some of the ideas that I shared will help you think about what you want to bring back into the classroom.
I love that. Tons of ideas there. I'm going to grab out where you say, don't be afraid to fail. And if you haven't done it for recently, you should go try to do that and failing and learn from it. So I want to harp on that and lead us into giving away a copy of your book.
Absolutely.
So the book, The Virtual Classroom, Creating Distance Learning Experiences in Math for K-8 Learners. But here's what I'm going to suggest. If you're okay with it, Patricia, I'm going to say, they need to tweet out or hit us up on Instagram. Oh, actually, let's go there. What's your preferred, Twitter or Instagram? Where do you go most?
Oh, man. I've been a big Twitter fan for a very long time because the math teacher blogosphere and MTBOS has always been my go-to for getting new ideas for teaching math. I've recently just started putting my toe in Instagram. I like the pictures, but I'm going to say Twitter.
All right, we're going to go to Twitter. You need to tweet out at @TeachBetterTeam. Use hashtag #TeachBetterTalk. And then, Patricia, can you tell us real quick your Twitter handle?
@TeacherPrep.
@TeacherPrep. Share that out. I would like you to share with Patricia one way that you have recently failed and learned. So that's what I'm looking for. Something that you weren't afraid to fail and the lesson you took from it. We'll pick some randomly, and Patricia's going to get a book out to you. So that's that. Let's get into the 6 questions. I'm going to throw these next 6 questions at you. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready?
Each question, 15 seconds.
Yep.
Okay.
You ready?
Okay.
She's like doing the math. All right, then. Okay, I got it. What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
I love Google Jamboard. It's very versatile. If you're a Google Classroom, you could assign it to students. You could create collaborative Jamboards for students to work in groups. It has a lot of versatility. So I'm going to go with Jamboard.
What is a good book you're reading right now?
I just started reading the last lecture. I just finished When Breath Becomes Air. I'm really interested in spirituality books. I love first-person narratives and books where people are talking about life right before the brink of death. I know that's kind of bizarre, but it's just always been my jam.
Who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
I'm going to give a shout out to some of my local peeps that have been super supportive and just great friends. At William Franzel, he is a science and STEM coach for the Monterey Unified School District. He is super on the edge. I love his innovation. And Ben Cogswell, he is the Kinder Rockets guru and Seesaw master. So if you are an early elementary teacher, definitely check out Ben Cogswell.
What's a good YouTube channel, website, or podcast for educators to check out?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my spiritual space and say, y'all need to be doing some yoga because teaching is stressful and you need to de-stress. So my favorite yoga channel is Boho Beautiful because she travels all over the world, which is a dream of mine, and just does these outdoor yoga classes, which are awesome. And I love Mark Robert. I don't know. He's a former NASA guy who does wonderful STEM challenges in real places. He did one out here in Santa Cruz at the boardwalk, and it was all about probability of winning carnival games. It was awesome. And the kids love it. Definitely use it in the classroom.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Well, I just did Reiki for the first time. That was a trip. So all my chakras are currently cleaned out. I also do yoga. I love my Peloton. I'm going to give a shout out to the whole entire Peloton team. And I go to church regularly. I think nourishing your spiritual side is so critical. Teaching is emotionally exhausting and you're constantly giving. So make sure you're giving back to yourself.
And what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
All right. So when I started teaching, I got a clock and it said around the clock, give students your most precious gift, your time. And that has stuck with me since I was a brand new teacher.
Oh, that's such a good piece of advice. We should do that for not only our students, but people around us.
I love that.
Absolutely.
So, Patricia, I want to make sure our listeners can stay connected to you. Obviously, I know you already shared your Twitter handle, but if you wouldn't mind sharing that again, as well as your website, that would just be a great way for our listeners to continue to learn from the incredible things you are doing.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I do have a YouTube channel, too. It's Teacher Prep Tech. My Twitter handle is Teacher Prep Tech. And my Instagram handle is Teacher Prep Tech. And my website is www.teacherpreptech. I'm trying to brand myself. What do you guys think?
I think you got them locked in. You're making it easy. It's Teacher Tech Prep. Yeah, I love it. So you can find her everywhere there. So she made it really easy for us. But you can find all the links and all the resources and everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as those links for connecting with Patricia and keeping this conversation going with her. So head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with these amazing educators, and just share this podcast with them. Patricia, this was awesome. I'm so excited for people to hear this and get to know you a little bit better and hopefully connect with you and continue growing with you. Really, really appreciate you taking some time and hanging out with us. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.